Black Gotham Experience presents Nerdy Thursdays, our take on the classic Harlem Renaissance Salon, a familiar place to meet new ideas. Come enjoy our reading room, teas, signature drinks, and a thematic soundtrack by our featured DJ. Make sense of the day and nerd out.
He wrote raps and text messages and memes, so the C's could read the lines in between. He made reality shows with real scenes, so people could see a greater perspective of what family means.
So please give a nice little round of applause for the interlocutor of the day, Sister Soul.
I'm so glad to have this conversation with you all, with some of my old friends and new friends. I see the thesis of the film being about how ubiquitous sin is in our society. I think the commentaries on money being the root of all evil, and also the motivations and incentives that each character has to go against and dishonor the things that they supposedly have reverence for, whether that be God, capital G, or family, and all the manifestations of what is of value and what is sacred. So I see it being about sin because it's called Sinners. And that's the commentary that I don't see in the predominant discourse online that feels very disappointing, because what I saw was people immediately moving toward colorism of trying to identify, is Mary Black? And to see how that fixation upon complexion and biology is still what we feel is like the most nuanced conversation, which granted, Du Bois said the issue of the 20th century was the issue of the color line. But I think Ryan is ushering in a new indictment of what the issue of the 21st century is, which is an issue of spirit.
Mm-hmm. Word. And I love the fact that we're just jumping in at like different angles, because for me, I think the thesis was more about the world that we live in, that to a large measure, we're all like dipped in the sin. Mm-hmm. And I think that the film being titled Sinners, I felt like was a powerful way to like jump into theology and epistemology. But at the same time, you see all these contrasts. And so I've seen it twice. First time I got a set of layers. Second time I got like a different layer. But I feel like part of what I got from the second watch was how much capitalism was always in everybody's exchange. Mm-hmm. Whether it was a wooden coin, a gold coin, a little bit of money, paper money, everybody was trying to hustle and figure out how to take care of themselves, how to like squeeze happiness out of pain. Mm-hmm. And I felt like everybody, just by virtue of just trying to be human, was like a sinner. Mm-hmm. Granted, it was pushed to different extremes, and to some degree, there was a little bit of an after-school special sentimentality around this is bad, but at the same time, I feel like those layers began to like evolve a bit, and I was like, oh, this is not necessarily solely about any particular religion. Mm-hmm. I think this is more a conversation about, regardless of your religion, you're navigating with a system set up by the devil, and so just trying to walk down the block, you're going to probably do something wrong. Mm-hmm. And so I want to kind of like, keep the thesis piece, but I want to kind of begin to get into like some of the symbolism.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so you look at the brothers, the twins, the hat colors, and you, of course, as an artist and as a strategist, were there certain symbols that you were watching like, okay, I'm reading it one way, or you're like noticing it? Because I've seen different things in like just 2 watches, and some folks have seen it 4 times.
Yeah. There's a lot. I mean, Ryan Coogler did a phenomenal job writing this. And I will also say, just one last thing on the meta, how people receive this. A lot of Black people were like, oh my God, this is the best movie I ever saw. And to me, having studied film traditionally, I'm like, I think this is the first film a lot of people ever saw, because a lot of films, supposed cinema today, is just long advertisements and jargon. There's even something called second screen viewing that most streaming services use before they even platform or purchase certain films, which means you need to be able to be watching something else and still gather the plot. It's called second screen, right? So I think that the fact that Ryan Coogler was able to create something with so much cinematic integrity and trust that people would get that resonance. And also the casting is genius. Saul Williams as Sammy's father. Saul Williams is going crazy right now advocating for Gaza, right? So like even just thinking about all the production components of who's on screen and what they're representing, and then the writing itself is genius. But in terms of symbols that were really ringing through to me, obviously purity is very present. I think that Annie and Smoke's child, their deceased child, is the apex emblem of purity, and the fact that Annie could only be reunited with her deceased child if she didn't choose immortality through becoming a vampire. And so while some people would see immortality, living forever, as like the best thing one could get, she understands that to die, there is another world, that there is a heaven, and she wants to pass through that. And so in a Christian context, Annie practicing hoodoo could be seen as sacrilegious. It could be seen as witchcraft, as dark magic, but really, Annie, the fact that she has a pure heart, the fact that she and Smoke are married, the fact that she resubmits to her husband even though she's torn in that, right? She is a symbol of love. Their child is a symbol of love, and that's beautiful to me. I know people are talking about Pearline and her marriage, and whether this woman who was married but was looking for trouble. Lust. I think lust is like a super active symbol throughout. The lust for money to gain it, the lust for power, and the ways in which who we will do deals with, who we'll barter with to try to attain some relative power or pleasure, right? And in the case of Smoke and Stack, they did a deal with Klans members, unbeknownst to them. They bought a property. But here's a symbol that I really love that's used throughout is time. Because time is, God's speed is how God shows up. Time is like a huge time and lineage and genealogy, because there's a genealogist present. So let me say it right.
TV.
Though, like, to me, the fact that the whole thing occurs over the course of a single day says so much. The fact that they obtained the means to open this juke joint and waited for nothing and immediately moved on it, that says a lot. Because God needs time, but sin doesn't, right? Temptation doesn't. It provides an immediate gratification. So I think even that framing, that symbol of time, and then being arrested in time to have to live forever, which Stack does as a vampire, and it casts forward, some decades later, and we see Sammy's much older, but he's still scarred by the past. And they both say that day was the best day of my life until night fell. And so then I'll say the final symbol that's really powerful is that of the sun, to live in the light, to live righteously. That's the only thing that could cast the vampires out was sunlight. And it's the one thing that those who sinned and survived never got to see again.
Nah, lovely breakdown.
But I'm not a rapper, no.
Nah, but that was a great analysis there. I think that it was I think on my first take, the music was very a powerful symbol. And I think that the sound design was very strong, even when it wasn't like a musical moment. And I also noticed that there was like a sound bed for a lot of parts of the film. And so it was rare that there was no music at all. You know what I'm saying? Even there were just like regular scenes where you would have like discordant sounds, sometimes pleasant, but almost every moment of that film, if it wasn't like scored as like a top note, it was like a background note. And so there's a sonic element to the film where it's kind of like you're not just scoring the film or bringing in music because it fits the scene or it's emotional. There's something happening that was set at the very opening of the film that music is a way to move through time. And so part of what I thought about is that Black people in Mississippi, regardless of what you practice, whether you're in church or you're doing hoodoo or Yoruba, that the ability to like tap into sonics always puts Black people into the center. That moment in time where you see all those various elements of style throughout the diaspora, on the continent, that for me was like what I think Black artists have been trying to say about Black art since we've had a chance to express ourselves on this side of the Atlantic. That art is not just something to be bought and sold or passed off to somebody who can give you a check. Art is like sacred and it's central to our communication with the divine. And that divine doesn't necessarily have to have the same name, but the music still does the thing. And so I thought that the music was a real powerful symbol.
Absolutely. I mean, it absolutely is. Sammy he's channeling the divine through the music. And the music is the conduit by which that summons both the gods and the devils, the demonic entities, which is very true. And I think that duality being held, not just in music, but the idea of like the fact that anything that has the power to channel can call in both.
Right.
I think that's incredibly powerful. And I think also, the Irishman coming and then denouncing Catholicism and saying like, even we don't go for that.
Part of what I heard when the main vampire cat was talking about the song or the prayer, I was thinking more about like the 16th century when the Irish, like the English practiced on the Irish how to enslave. Like they were sending them over here early, but they were just kind of like, not my skin. You know what I'm saying? That's not going to work. But for the most part, it was like they were, part of why Irish people were coming over here looking for work is because the British controlled their land before the first potato famine. You know what I'm saying? And so there's like that American whiteness thoroughfare of pain, but there's also like, before y'all even got over here, we was, Ireland was colonized before any part of Africa was by any European. You know what I'm saying? There's so they were like the black people of Europe.
They were the black people of Europe. And you just reminded me of one of my favorite, and it is nerdy. This is very nerdy.
Nerd out.
One of my favorite historical documents is called A Modest Proposal by Jonathan Swift. And it's actually during the Irish potato famine. And it's a really strong piece of satire where it's a prime example of satirical political writing where he says, in place of food, let's eat the babies. And he's like, this is a modest proposal. What if we eat the children of Ireland? And here's how we can season them, and here's how we can broil them. So it's so interesting to think about that connection then that being the ethno-national group that's represented as vampires, because that is actually a part of that ethno-national history from Jonathan Swift during the potato famine.
I mean, one of the things I think about is how there's such continuity. Irish people are not necessarily regarded for their cuisine, but for their beer and their whiskey. There's a lot of Irish pubs, not a whole lot of like Irish taverns or high-level 5-star or Michelin-rated restaurants. And that's not shade. That's just like, it's in front of your face.
Yeah.
Like they have the pubs. Like they got the alcohol going, but they're like not known for their cuisine. And some of that comes back from people that escaped the potato famine and escaped the tyranny of the British. They felt guilty having truckloads of food on their table. Because because their forebears were being starved to death, and so it's almost like this dialogue around like I think with black people with money, you know what I'm saying? Like our people were bought and sold and we're a form of capital, so we can't be but so rich, money's bad. You know what I'm saying? There was a whole time like 19th century where like a lot of Irish folks were like, we're not opening restaurants. Why would we do that? Food is bad. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I think this is like what's interesting about Annie and her character is because she has a value system where when Smoke tries to give her money, she's like, I don't need your money. And she goes along with the whole thing, but she's always a bit resistant. And so I think that like she is again this emblem of purity because she's motivated by love. She's not she's not there for the money. She doesn't really care if that works out or not. In fact, if she had it her way, they wouldn't even be embroiled in the scheme in the first place. She just wanted her husband home. And what took him away from home was also money because he was up in Chicago hustling.
Yeah. The Irish came here Catholic. And so he's not talking about the American canon. If he's talking about Irish being Catholic, you're going back to like the 1400s. And so when he shows that gold and says, like it was we're nerding out. They're probably Spanish coins. They're probably pieces of 8. Because that was like the main currency because the first European empire were the Iberians. Columbus, Charles V, they had it first. And so Spanish pieces of 8 was like the global economy. It was like the dollar until like damn near 1800. And so he probably had Spanish pieces of 8.
And I think it's totally on topic, right? Because what's interesting is Remick discards the religious system that was imposed upon him. And then Sammy, he doesn't officially renounce it. He just chooses something beyond it, which is his direct connection to spirit and source, even though he has his father that is like the immediate influence of God and Christianity. And then there's Annie, hoodoo borrows from the Christian faith. Hoodoo isn't isolated in of itself. It uses scripture, it uses the Psalms. And so there's something about a reclamation of what's used to abuse you as also a gateway through to spirit and source.
I also don't know if she was hoodoo or Yoruba or a blend. I think when she said Ashe, I was just like, that sounds more like Yoruba, Ifa, Sansedia.
I guess I was assuming.
And then her also like shaking the different things was like her doing like an Igbo or divination.
Some definitely root work.
Yeah, so
she was a root worker.
Yeah, I was getting more Yoruba, but I feel like it could have been a blend.
It's right here.
Yeah,
Which is why the Creole faith, I'm like hoodoo, voodoo. But yes, Michael B. Jordan also, I think he recently said in an interview he practices Ifa.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the movie it's all in there. Like
Yeah.
even like the twins are based on Alicia, the Ashe, and even I think something to the interview that was really powerful. He references Isho that I have some beats for I got when I was in Brazil last month after surviving a crazy almost accident on the bridge in Rio. But Isho is like the crossroads between like the Orishas and humanity, right? And a lot of Westerners, quote unquote, have taken the character of Isho because he's a trickster, and they just made him the devil. There was an interpretation of the Bible and Santeria put together, and some white dude was like, okay, if he's a trickster, let's just call him the devil, but he's not. And so a lot of like the old school blues mythology about selling your soul to the devil to play a guitar or be really talented, Coogler was like, that is a deep Black experience because most of us have to really kind of go all in something creatively to win. And so he goes, so for me, I sold my soul to the devil to be a filmmaker because I remember getting a call about my uncle being sick, Ryan. But let me finish, please, because don't get scared. Ryan was saying he was working on his first film while his uncle was sick. And he was just kind of like, he's getting calls from the family, and he's got the tunnel vision on. Like, yo, go see your uncle. I will. Go see your uncle. I will. Go see your uncle. I will. And then he's in the editing room, gets a call, your uncle's dead. He's like, and he's carrying out with him. And so part of what he says is like, I sold my soul to be a filmmaker because I would have loved to see my uncle. And a lot of people, he says, make sacrifices and give something up, whether they acknowledge it or not, to be successful at a thing. And so he's like, the way I see it is that people are always making these deals. And it goes back to business because he's known for his movie deal. Yeah. Right? And so I think that he's acknowledging that we live in this world that is just like, run by the devil. And in order to just like pursue happiness, you're going to do something that's not completely pure. But also I think in Santeria, Ifa, and Yoruba, there's not a heaven or a hell. There's here and there's consequences. Yeah. And there's so it's like you're not going to go to hell, but maybe just acknowledge that in their view we're sinners, but who the hell's the real devil? If you set the system up that makes us all impure just to kind of make it. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that part of what I see is interesting, just to kind of, before I go to Rashid, is have y'all been following Ryan's trajectory around tapping into like Black American culture? How like Black Panther, he spent a lot of time on the continent, and he went to the continent with the perspective that we're hood, we're all Killmonger, and we don't have culture. After making Black Panther, he was like, we do have culture. And that was reflected a little bit more like in like the Wakanda piece with like Ironheart.
Wait, he himself believed that Black Americans
did not have culture. When he was working on Black Panther 1, he was like, we don't have culture.
It was his cultural context. So he got to try to understand where he came from, not to justify it, but if all
he's young too, to be frank.
All you see are these
Fruitville, he was what, 22?
He was like, yeah, he was 20. He was 21 when it premiered at Sundance.
Yeah. So his perspective was a little isolated.
Well, I mean, you see,
I
and
wouldn't say-
this isn't Black Panther, but you can see that in Killmonger's whole motive, his whole characterization was really, I did not feel justification to African American people that are connected. I
Totally.
would say that.
Totally. But I wouldn't say he internalized anti-blackness as much as there are people who like what Kendrick went to Africa in 2017, 16 for the first time. Kendrick. So I think that you might have a perspective of yourself that you don't necessarily. It's not as cultivated or developed until you go somewhere and realize what doesn't change about you. Because travel is like, oh my God, I went and I saw this. It's like, that's important, but when you was there, what about you was the same? I mean, I don't disagree as much as I'm saying. I think that part of it is also a lot of these what is it? Left Eye, her short film.
Oh yeah, yeah.
She was, how many albums did she make before she realized what fasting was? She just started drinking green juice at the end of her life. So a lot of Black creatives, in my opinion, we sometimes think that they got it figured out, but they're growing just like us. And so I don't even look at it as, I don't disagree either. I just feel like he hadn't been a lot of places to see himself in a context where he realizes that Black Americans do have culture, even if it doesn't look like the culture on the continent.
The bastardization of Black Americanism overall is my problem. Because quite frankly, if I never knew where my lineage touched beyond this continent, I still have ancestors and I know of them and I'm proud that they were enslaved people who found their freedom. That is a complete history of a people. And the fact that there's always this notion that Black American identity is fragmented unless it can be reconnected to continental Africa, despite the fact our blood is constantly connected, that's an issue. And that's why I think that Annie as a character is so powerful and so beautiful. Extremely. To have that representation, to have One Me who's performing that role, be there as a bigger Black, dark-skinned woman, beautiful. Yeah. Watching them have sex. Even the way that intimacy was represented throughout the film, of who was shown making love, I think all these things are really needed in the canon.
Actually, backing up what you said, and I got triggered. Funny enough, someone was like, they found it refreshing that in all of the set scenes of who was giving pleasure to the other partner, it was mostly the guy giving the girl pleasure and not the other way around. The coos eating, as they would say.
I did not know that was.
I don't know. Mary seemed to enjoy drinking that man's blood.
But I will. You're right, and it's so interesting because that scene where Sammy, appreciate you, Dara. That scene where Sammy wants to just taste her, and she says, "I'm dirty. I need to clean myself," and he's like, "I just want to taste." So it's again that literally not just lusting for the purity of a woman, but particularly lusting for something that is corrupt, that's dirty, that's forbidden. That's what the whole drive was. She did.
This is a PG-13 experience, y'all. We're not going to get into tastes. Not tonight. Not tonight, Satan. Come back tomorrow for In Search of Humans. We'll talk about flavors. We're not doing flavors tonight. Oh, I know there's something there.
Come on.
Well, because your question is legit. Who defined it as dirty, right? And yes, she says it, but you have to understand in which context does she internalize the fact that she has she was sweating like a normal human being. And why is that dirty? Why is that dirty?
We've crossed the Rubicon.
Oh,
We're talking about taste and smells.
What she got to say, and then I got something to say.
No, let's go. Let's have it.
That Lysol was used as the first feminine hygiene. Lysol is the original creator, so we've been taught that our natural state of being is unclean and pure when they're not, right? And we are taught that we need to sanitize these things in a very specific way. And there's a whole culture around washing yourself properly, right? But yeah, we want to think about it like that. Lysol was the first hygiene products, yes. There was a
Yeah.
to market feminine hygiene products, and obviously, Lysol does not go into your,
Disclaimer, if you don't. For sure. For sure.
No, I mean it's too late now. It's
There's a lot
it's
about
hard
it's not,
now.
so it's not about hygiene. That's the thing. The symbolism to me of her saying that was her adding on a degree of forbiddenness. In the same way, she didn't have to tell him she was married. She wanted him to know. That's what made the whole encounter transgressive. That's where the arousal came from, the nature that it wasn't supposed to be happening. Right? And same thing for you, don't touch me because I'm unclean. It's not, oh, because I'm actually, it's like, oh, I want to see how much you're willing to disgrace yourself. And I want you to know that I'm disgracing myself, because that's what make the perversion is where the pleasure lies when you're sinning.
All right, so go. Yeah, I know you've been waiting after you, Rashid. Since we're doing R-rated talk, I have some feedback. Go ahead, brother.
What I was thinking, because
You said you was thinking, or you was thinking? Oh, my bad.
we just say stinking thinking. How close is sin to pleasure? How close is sin?
I mean, isn't it uncut pleasure based on the Bible?
But I mean, before you even add what is the operating system of what deems good or bad, when you just look at, they were having a party. This
In a juke joint.
There's nothing wrong with individuals who have been on a plantation sharecropping after they, I'll get into the history. They're not supposed to be sharecropping, actually. It's supposed to be their land, right? If you really
That too.
really get
That
into
part.
the details of classism, of capitalism, and how
Field orders.
the systems that they are operating in is already unjust in general. That's in the South. And then what was the failed promise of the brothers when they encountered coming to the North? Many of us are children in New York and these major cities who fit. My grandfather was born in South Carolina. So we're only about half of a generation of being a transplant in a whole nother city that we have no equity. Like, how much black ownership do we have in New York? Let's be honest, in 2025. So there's a capital aspect of it when you see the brothers coming back. But I just wanted to key in on what you said, because the journey that I had watching the movie called Sinners was looking at music, but then looking at Black joy. And is this a message of how when Black people come together for joy, to have a good time, who is going to be knocking out our doors, trying to make a deal with us, or is it a rent party? Right? Because economically, we need to come together to support. So Andy got to go out. Marie got to go outside and get the gold coin. So the joy matched with the economic circumstance is like hip hop today. It's why people take bad deals. It's why these kids out here with the drill stuff. It's because the system has not been changed economically. So people are trying to have fun and have joy in an area of weakness financially, so somebody's always going to sell somebody out, right? Lastly, even in the joy that we see happen with Burkina Faso, he's like, well, one of my guys, they try to offer him $5 million to assassinate me at any point in time.
Preferably while he's praying.
Right? Could have been praying, could have been at an event, a gathering. So to me, it's always this concept of, this movie has me really thinking about how close to sin is the joy that we have. And because our joy in this country has come from fighting against the oppression, how close is it when every song or the elements that we have is a cry out against what we've been what we're trying to escape, and or it's a cheer, because in America, this is where the system of white supremacy is highly operational in so many aspects of just control of ownership, IP. You got to make a deal to shoot a movie. So I really was looking at the joy that we have and how much of that leads to what you could say sin and unfortunate consequences that happen. Especially in New York, you go to clubs, stuff happens. So it makes me think about that. And I'm laying here in a juke joint playing that type of music as if that music wasn't playing at the Cotton Club in the 1930s, right? Think about where they are in 1934 in the South the New Deal happens in 1934. White folks get a lot of stuff. Many black towns have been destroyed. These brothers is in Mississippi playing this music that, if you want to be honest, I'm sure is in other places, is a part of black elite socialite clubs, a part of a network of black people who have done something with themselves, but the economic circumstances what creates the dynamics of this movie, because they're trying to find money for the next day, or trying to find a way to provide joy for individuals who are also under an economic circumstance, working on a plantation all day, and they really just want to have a good time. Yeah, we are always targeted for having a good time.
I would say that's like the fundamental difference between Smoke and Stack. If Smoke is thinking about tomorrow, Stack is thinking about today. Like, that's why Stack has to live 1,000 more days. He has to live indefinitely, but he's not so preoccupied with how is this going to be financially sustainable, or even if his actions are putting him in an immediate tension more constantly. Smoke is more reserved, he's more deliberate, he's more strategic, because he's trying to, like you say, make it to the next day, make it to sunrise.
Then it goes back to what Kamau said earlier, like that's your left and right shoulder.
Yep.
How many times have you made a fact, I could have waited, or I should have just relaxed, I'm chilling, but bills, the societal standards on me, there's so many things that weigh on black decision making on an economic standpoint, then it just makes sometimes you be hasteful or rushed. So you need to lean on faith. You need to have patience as a virtue, and that's when all the wisdom starts to come in, because outside of that, the circumstances we are under would make us turn up any given day. Because
I think that's part of like the layers. Once again, it's one of those, there's so many layers, and I think that you're touching on things that both Sol and I have converging and diverging perspectives on. You know, I think that just, you know, like shorthand for me, I'm walking out of that film, the first watch is kind of like, it's just like we're all sinners. Not like, hey, we're all bad. It's just like to try to find joy in this world, somebody's going to say, why you dancing like that? Why you playing that music? And let's not forget, it ain't but like so far away when some of the way women dress now or dance would be considered a sin. Like as a teenager, like, yo, you can't wear that kind of dress. Preachers be telling you, like, yo, you can't dress like that. You can't move your hips like that. It's like, that's sinful. That's lusty. Just moving like that is a problem, let alone the lyrics. So it's like, it's not. We're almost like that's I think is a ongoing thing to unpack and download. Is that yes, sin more, you know, at least biblically, is like pleasure. We have to like resist to be close to God. But if you have a system that is set up by the devil, it's almost like, well, when am I not sinning? You know what I'm saying?
Well, the cardinal sin is like putting something above God. Like that is sin more than anything. When something can draw you out of that meditative relationship with God, when God possesses you, you shouldn't. And this is me coming from like my spirituality, because I had an encounter. I guess when I watched it, it was very uncomfortable. I was brought back to a year ago. I guess it was a year ago when I went to the Office magazine party. I was featured in a magazine for a piece called Drum Go, where I was embodying an Orisha and trying to work through this understanding of Black female sexuality and where there is a source of power in it, where there is a demonic potential in it. I was trying to work through these things. And so I made a piece. It was featured in this Culture magazine. But the night of the launch, crazy hearing this story about Ryan Coogler and his uncle, because my stepfather had died about a month before this. And I was brought home to Oakland. And I was really struggling while I was there, because I kept having this download from God saying to me, the mind is a terrible thing to waste. The mind is a terrible thing to waste. And what I really understood it to be was that the tension of New York at this point in my life, being a performing artist, was asking me to just be a body. Don't be a brain. It ain't gonna work that way. They're not gonna let you pass the Golden Gates. Just be a body, strip down. And Drum Go was motivated by me trying to understand if I could live in that space, if I could use sexuality as my end and put aside my mind. And even though there was a scholarship in it, really I knew that just encountering the performance piece of Drum Go itself, you would just see me being sexy. You know what I mean? So anyway, I go to this that night I have several events, and I just gotten home, and I wasn't really right because I hadn't properly grieved my stepfather passing. I wanted to immediately jump back into the hustle because I got this magazine feature. And God was telling me, be in timeout, peace be still. And I was not going to move at God's speed. I was trying to move at the speed of a magazine issue and any invite that was being given to me. And I knew that this was a premonition coming, but I was refusing it. And so that night I go to one event and it's beautiful. It was everything I needed. It felt like I was in like-minded company that I could continue to grow with. And I'd been praying for that. But then later in the night was the magazine party. And I felt like I could just go home. I could just go home and skip it. In fact, I knew I actually couldn't wear the same thing to both. I had to go home and change to actually have even fit into the next environment, which was another tell sign. Because, that's a Black superstition. If you got to go home in the night, stay home, stay in. I went back out. Cassius, my husband, he was trying to help me get back out because he knew for my career, keep the momentum, not listening to the downloads I'm being given and instead operating out of the flesh. That night, I didn't get in because I got there so late. And while standing on the street, I had to get in through a back door. When I finally got upstairs, the lights turned on, the DJ stopped, it was over. I went back downstairs through the longest red lit hallway of my life, and I took a single picture because I felt like, I don't think I'm supposed to be here. And when I stepped out onto the street, a group of men crossed the street and say, "Hey, Ma." And I'm shook because I'm feeling all the reverb of I'm not supposed to be here right now. And they're like, "Take a picture." I'm like, being, had an attitude. "Okay, brat." And the next thing out of my mouth is, and we get into a spat right there on the street. Y'all, I came home, and the first thing my partner asked me is, "How was your night?" And I could have told him about anything that happened that night. And I said, "I met someone." I said, "I had a strange encounter with this man, but maybe it was nothing." That's all that sat on my spirit. For 9 to 10 months after that, that man would be my stalker. I met you in this period. I could not go out at night by myself. I could not post anywhere that I was going to be. It changed my life being under siege because I dared to be out past when a lady is supposed to, wearing something I wasn't really supposed to, a jacket that was too tiny. And there was just so much in it that I was really brought back to that with the juke joint. Seeing what draws us into these places. What type of good time are we really looking for? Because I could have just stayed my ass home.
Yo, hold on. Welcome to Soul's TED Talk. We appreciate that. Nah, thank you for sharing that. Josh, you were saying something?
Sun, right to your point, it's kind of moves hand in hand, like in the symbol in the movie as to like not displeasure, right? Not pleasure, but displeasure. So when the sun came up, like the party was over, the vampires was gone, everybody had to go back to regular life. It's over with. So I think that was just another symbol, and it kind of correlated with the story.
Right. And what does your name mean, by the way?
What does my name mean? The name Soul?
Yeah.
Sun.
I was just curious.
And also the cousin of funk. Yeah.
I think another thing I noticed that was heavy in the movie that kind of got brushed over a lot. You only kind of see with Cornbird and his interaction, but I think it happened with Slow to Mary, Stat, and Ann is that I think a lot of these women wanted these men to be like things for them. And then they realized that all of these guys were scared of doing crimes. Like they just did.
You said they were scared to
put on crimes. Like these women wanted the kingdom. But those guys were like scared of putting on the crown. Well, they wanted to do it in a way that wasn't even reflective of what the woman necessarily wanted.
Right.
Like Mary just wanted love. Ann just wanted a man. But these guys that went off to Chicago, wherever they wanted, came back with these big sums of money. And even when Ann first saw Smith again, she was like,
"What do you want?"
To see him. Like, she had attention, but it wasn't like, once you come back, wait, you didn't like throw a bunch of money into you know what I mean? It was just a very. And then Ann saw when Mary saw Stack at the train station. You know what I mean? Like all of these women wanted different things. Even the little girl when she was watching the call for Stack, she didn't even really want money at first. She was just like,
you had to negotiate higher.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? He's almost planted that seed in her, like,
Definitely planted the seed.
Yeah. It wasn't like, she was just like, all right, So I don't know, I just feel like that was something that they kind of everyone rushed over about most of the male characters. they really weren't ready to receive or wear the crown to be destined to wear. And I think that's why they're trying to succumb and fell to the wayside of life.
We were receiving downloads and we weren't listening to divine downloads, we weren't listening to them. Like that was one of the things that kept coming up in the movie is that anytime you ignore your intuition, right, their divine messages, it's always going to lead to some sort of growth or some trial and tribulation. So I'm thinking about that moment when Cornbread comes back, and we know what happened. We know what he is.
Cornbread's character is just like, you gonna get in trouble, bro. You just know it by the way he move.
I'm like, well, why did it take so long? And I'm like, guys are having to ask too many questions. Why are you talking so much? You know in your heart that something is wrong, right? Not being into that. And then,
I know that for me, honest.
oh,
I think I'm even naive. I was thinking, yeah, they used to the bathroom.
oh.
They showed the scene of him getting
I'm
made.
gonna talk to you after this is over, brother. I got some books for you.
I said they showed that. That was on screen.
Even before
The Whispering, bruh.
when the three vampires walk up, they don't know what they're like. It was similar of black people only function. Read into that as well.
What do you say? Is it because it is?
They knew something was off. And they chose not to read into that. And it led to a night that they had. And how many times, I had to think about how many times did I not listen to my intuition, that was the divine lesson that would led me into so much more strife than if I had followed my initial, intuition.
Obedience or sacrifice. Yeah, that's the way the divine works. Yeah.
Definitely. Thank you.
We're taught, especially non-native people, that part, certain one part that God speaks, because we're so busy to be caught up in the mainstream thought process of like think about the logistics.
Yeah.
What's logical? What's logical for you? What's that part? Like it's about your career, right? Like it's logical to go, but something that's deep inside your body says do not. But there's that logical. Oh, no, you're gonna be fine. Just go. And I think that's just for many of us. A lot of us do, even the most quote unquote psychic of people do that because we're taught to second guess that innate part of us that is our intuition. It is what I would call our second or whatever you want to call it. But so don't ever beat yourself up.
Well, we're one taught, but it's reinforced by we'll be told we're crazy. Because if you do heed exactly what it will maybe look wild.
Exactly.
So yeah, and you're right, it is psychic.
It takes a lot to that. You continuously listen to that voice. I'm definitely a testament to that. But I just wanted to piggyback off of what Nino.
Mr. Piggyback tonight.
I think that what a lot of folks are following in the movie was what whiteness brings. Like the promise of whiteness. And I think a lot of, like our ancestors, even for some of our parents, grandparents, I mean, that was what
Cousins.
the pinnacle was. The pinnacle was that you do these things, you will get this, that, and the third. And so for those men, they're thinking, okay, I get the money, I get the power, I get the girl. And the girl is like, I can't all night. My friend George. But they think that, but that is the thought process, and the assumption is she wants that too. And I think we're still dealing with that. Because she wants that too. Now we're talking. Did you ask me? It might be considering that. But I think all along, throughout the series, I mean, for me, I'm saying the series with the songs and churches.
You've seen it 5 times, so it's a series. Series.
For me, what it was about was the temptation of whiteness. That's how I saw all television. You want to say something?
Well, we got some people over here that have been waiting. Yeah. First you, and then Higgins. I know your hand was up. Then Eva. Hold on, first we veggie back around here, yo. I'm sorry. We gotta stop that. Get that swine out of this conversation, yo. You won't.
So like the whole thing masculinity back when you mentioned earlier, funny you mentioned where like, did you ask me what I actually wanted as far as like the money and the power. There was I remember we had a meeting about Bell Hooks here a few months ago.
Yeah.
And because my friend Imani was talking about how whenever she deals with guys that, you know, they feel like they're not worthy enough to talk to her because they don't feel like they're in a good place financially or making enough money. And then she's like, I've seen your check statements. Like, I don't care about that. Like, can we try to build something together or something like that? And it's funny with the whole thing of like, as men, we mentally are trapped in this whole sense of masculinity of like, to provide, to make the place,
Provide and protect.
provide and protect. And we don't even realize that, but she can provide and protect too. And not to say that it doesn't have to be a one-sided thing, but it can be a mutual thing of like, you know, like I have your back, you have mine type shit. Similar to like Annie and Smoke. It's like they both kind of had that sense of, probably like the best relationship in the movie of like when she tells Smoke in the juke joint, like, yo, if they bite me, you gotta kill them. And there was that moment where when it happened, he was hesitant, but he loved her enough to know that he had to do it. Because he loved her enough to know that he had to lose her, then have to bear with her being a vampire for the rest of her life and not seeing their baby.
No, yeah, it's the layers, and that's part of why I'm like the pen is dumb. The pen is dumb. It's because it's brilliant. Higgins.
Yes, to fez you back. Sister's comment.
Sister Regine.
For one, I'm amazed at, and I'm glad you acknowledge that you've seen the movie 3 or 4 times.
Three.
We work next week.
Because everyone's ability to retain the information. I'm like, people haven't seen this filter before.
I've seen it once, but this conversation is I'm like, I gotta go. These stumps, these pennies, which I had planned to do, but I'm really accelerated in that thought process now. And the part that I really wanted to speak on was the part we said the intuition, right? And almost every opportunity I get to share this, there's so many different signs throughout the movie. Don't do that. Tell me what around. It's not a horror movie, but it's a thriller, right? It's a thriller.
It's a bit of both, I think.
But there's enough times where you like, hold on. Right? And
Lock that door.
Exactly. And what Ron says is that intuition is a way of saying good, orderly directions, right? And so you get that acronym very simply, right? So when we do receive,
I just caught it, sorry.
You said good oriented, God oriented directions.
orderly direction.
Good orderly direction.
Yes.
Okay.
And when we get that bit of intuition or good orderly direction, there's a reason why we're not, it's our spiritual attunement, right? We're so fragmented, we're so distracted, that our alignment and being in tune with these things with our ancestors are like, they looking at us like, please don't go through that door. And they trying to give us the energy when by the time it reaches us, it's like, what is that door? But they yelling and screaming and they doing that whole thing. These are the good orderlies. And so it's just a note for all of us, right? As we move through our day, those little bits of intuition, that's, like Mom said, good orderly direction.
Yeah, the code's there. Yes, come through acronym. Sis, you wanted to drop something?
So there's just a couple of things I haven't heard mentioned or expounded on as much. The first is I think the main sin that this movie illuminates is that Black people are capital. It's not just a capitalistic system, but we've always been the actual capital in this country, and that might be the reason that no matter what century we're in, the whole point is to extract from us.
We're still in an ATM.
It's possible. Even now, with the what I would call exploitation or hijacking of Black culture, there's some people who think sexy red represents Black culture, and it's flattened into that. But culture is something that's proved itself over time, not just sexy red. No offense to her personally. But
Church.
just flattened and that's it. And that's why some people think that sort of the flattened Black culture they're around is Black culture when we've been here for 400 years. Actually longer than that because I just came from Charleston and found out. But anyway, so one of the biggest sins is that human beings were made capital on this continent. And
Right.
we are human beings and not capital, but even now we're being treated as such. The second thing has to do with the fact that Mary is an octoroon. And so when it comes to octoroons, if anybody's offended by these terms, I'm just using the terms that have been used. When it comes to octoroons, quadroons, and mulattoes, I think that America painted itself into a corner with the whole one drop rule. I haven't fully processed this, but I think that the whole point was just to get as many people, enslaved as possible.
Totally.
But now you have a whole group of people who don't really know what camp they're in. And then you have Mary wanting to so bad to be among the Blacks, and then when she wasn't, she ends up going out in the other direction. And then even now you have a time where the new Pope, people trying to figure out why if he's an octoroon.
The Pope is Black.
Oh.
Even now, and it's like
genealogist who did the genealogy.
yeah, I'm not saying she's not an octoroon, but again, the point is, is that it's something that was designated centuries ago for the purpose of oppression is still coming up, even to the point where you see a pope and then you're like, he's Black or he's an octoroon or a quadroon.
Hungry for it. Cash had his hand up.
Okay. I had some.
Thank you.
So, the hijacking of Black culture, because Remick's motivation was to get after Sammy because he could summon his ancestors
With his voice.
with his voice. He said, "I want you to sing like that for me." But the thing is, Sammy was summoning his ancestors. He couldn't have done that for Remick. So even if he wasn't to get what he wanted with being Sammy, he wouldn't have been able to get what he wanted against anyone.
That boy good.
But
Wait a second, Grace and her husband love it.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. That's the thing.
Great.
Remick would have to do for himself.
Chinese woman.
As he's listening to the music, he would have
Not even listening. He'd have to, because he's saying, he's saying and dancing, but that he wasn't tapped into God, and so he wasn't able to summon his own ancestors himself. That's the thing. He's immortal. He's been around forever, and he has his other vampire friends, but then he has his family.
Those were his homies, man.
So that's the thing. He wasn't
that
tapped
I
in.
could not tap.
He wasn't tapped into God. He wasn't tapped into humanity.
And so Grace and Bo.
well, it was his anointing. He didn't have Sammy's anointing. That like Sammy was the channel, but I do think what's interesting is that Remick and all vampires, it's what is it? When mind control,
I think
they can read each other's minds. That was the whole thing. Telepathy. Like they can exactly. And so there's something about the idea of like if you can take the vessel, which that's what's happening. Like they're all still in their same bodies, but their spirits and their minds have been possessed by like the head.
You can use that word in here.
The vampires are still kind of them. They're still conscious because the whole way that who was the vampire Smoke or Stack? I forget.
Stack.
Stack got it.
The way that Smoke was able to convince his brother to not kill him was by talking to him. Like a brother, he still recognized him as his brother. So it wasn't like they were completely gone. Were zombies.
That's
the note. That's the note. George, you're right after Rashid. Getting deep in here, y'all.
When I watch movies, I put myself in the time that it's happening in to understand the dynamics of what's going on. So when I look at the one drop rule, the octoroon, the quadroon, Plessy versus Ferguson, if y'all know Plessy, he was a white passing person. In Louisiana, that's basically that is the law and legislation that legalized segregation. So segregation has always been based on if you have blood that connects to slavery, more so than is how light or dark a slave you are is. The slave master was raping a lot of, you know what I mean, on the plantation. So when I looked at it, when people got caught up in the colorism, I'm like, do y'all think he could have walked around Mississippi with this woman and somebody white mistaken her for a white woman and shoot him in the head? Because to the perceived eye, they don't know she's a, and those are some of the dangers that just exist, right? What we got, 50 years later, Emmett Till happens, listening to a white woman. So in 1934, the dynamics that I'm looking at and I'm thinking about is after Birth of a Nation was played in the White House.
Woodrow Wilson.
Exactly. The rise of eugenics,
That was detrimental
the Ellis Island white immigrants that are coming into this country and having to be brought into the system of whiteness and kind of be taught what white supremacy is, who doesn't know anything about a one-drop rule if they came on Ellis Island. That's something that dates centuries ago. But just the fear for happiness in that sense, because I didn't see it as Stack didn't want to be with her. He was like, I love you so much, I set you up over there.
Yeah.
And I would kill somebody if they hurt you.
Right? But I understand under the politic that we exist in 1934 in the Deep South, it's a danger optically for us to be together, for the perceived eye that might think that you are white and not mixed, not all the other cool terms that we want to get into. And that to me was like what was a bit missing in some of the colorism conversations. It's like, I know how many brothers was getting murdered, and there's a book called 100 Years of Lynching.
And just to like veggie back, going back to capitalism, why was the one drop rule even being used in the British colonies? You know, it was more organized under the French with all the different breakdowns of what kind of white parent you had on your paternal side, right? But part of that was just about money. It just meant that if you got one drop of blackness, I can own you. I can enslave you. You become $1 to me. You become money once you have any kind of black blood in you. And so the kind of problems that happen downstream go back to like that initial way to monetize humanity by saying, once you got a drop of black, it's a wrap.
Which just a little vocab word. This is hypodescent and hyperdescent, and not all civilizations hypodescent and hyperdescent, and not all civilizations have deferred to the marginal identity being the identity. That is a organization of societies in and of itself, which societies are hypodescent and which are hyper, if you want to go down that rabbit hole. Hypo is up, or hypo is down. So hypodescent is, we are in a hypodescent civilization, yes.
And also just like to give some, like a call out for context. This is a guy from Germany who hung out in the US. His name was Adolf Hitler. And when he heard about the one drop rule, he was like, y'all, wow. Y'all pulled that off?
Before the science.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so, like, Hitler got eugenics from this country.
Yeah.
And he went back to Germany and he was like cooking up hate, like, that one drop shit is wild. We're not gonna pull that off. But we're gonna go ahead and blame these folk because that one drop thing, how do you even enforce that? So Adolf thought we were wild.
And
Just as some context.
let me add to that, in this new book that just came out, where the whole notion of eugenics came from this small place on Long Island, where that's where all of these Nazis picked up the whole eugenics thing. It was from Long Island.
Back to New York, huh?
Yeah.
On your
Deck.
Traces how this small little company out on Long Island, I think it's Huntington or it's someone out
Clyde
there,
Huntington.
and basically developed this theory, and that's what Hitler.
Science and racism, y'all. Most colleges
so
that
it
got
came
Ivies
here,
on them.
and then when they had the Nuremberg trials, they're like, well, where did you learn it? They're like, oh, we learned it from the Americans. It was out here on Long Island. So this professor, Michael Torres, was like, or Manuel Torres, I should say, was like, wait a minute, I've never heard of this, but and so his whole book is looking at this small little company of these so-called science. And they went in and they went to the Long Island tribes, they went to, African Americans, they did that
Chronology,
skull
right?
thing. Yeah.
We're gonna have to come get some because Sister Teresa got receipts. She keeps receipts in her pocket.
Before I hand it back to you, Kamau, to close us out, I'll say that I think that Inception is the perfect word.
Yeah.
Because
Great
you
movie, too.
have to retain, great movie, excellent movie. You have to retain a totem to remember what level you're in. And as someone, when Kamau and I first met, he was like, what are you really into? I was like, period, honestly. And I use this, but holding that totem, that memory of why did I set out onto this journey? Who am I beholden to? Who are my constituents? When you get levels and levels and levels and levels deep, where they're scanning, they're feeling you on an intuitive level, they're trying to check who you brought in here with you. You know what I mean? Like deep force fields, that is exhausting. And Black capitalism, which is what the film is about, it's talking about how do we retrace our motivations? What are you really doing this for? And who are you really doing this for? Because the women that love you just want you home and will take you poor and will be in the field with you until they won't. And then there's a question of that corruption and that idea of like what we send off our people for, because the ultimate, the cardinal sin of Black people was that we sold our own people. We sold our own people. So absolutely, the Eugenesis Project continues today through colorism, through fat phobia, through transphobia, and all these other things that estrange us from really the core of and the fear of African faith systems. These are all eugenesis projects that we have to keep scanning our the biggest prompt I give myself is, who told me to want what I want? Who told me to want what I want? When I want something, that prompt comes in immediately.
What'd you say? Don't know about that door? Word. Now, can everybody get a round of applause for like the engagement, the dialogue? I've been so looking forward to this conversation with you, Sol. Please give Sol a round of applause. See the bars, the brains.
Thank you.
I do want to just have one more round, 11, 12 minutes, then we'll throw it to Gino. But I do want to do a comparison of Saul Williams' character and Annie, because I think that knowing that it was written, even though we have stakes and we get on the edge of our seats and, too much blood, too much sex, but it's like everything was designed. And so part of watching a film with a media literacy lens on is like, what's the writer using that they know I have that they can manipulate to make me lean in? And I gotta tell you, some of y'all know my birth name. Samuel, my family called me Sammy. I grew up in a church. So I'm freshly back from Brazil, sitting there with Kadiatu, and I'm like, is this a film about somebody named Sammy in a church? My dad's a preacher, my grandma's a minister. And I was told, like, what are you doing with this art stuff? You'll be broke forever. You're not gonna have money. And my mom followed the same route. My mom was a painter. And then my dad was like, we got kids now, so you need to start teaching. So my mom went in the Head Start. And she began to get more into poetry because that was something that was affordable versus having a studio to paint. She goes, give me a piece of paper. I'm a flex on that. And so part of what drew me in about Sammy is that it opens the film up in many respects. And then you have like the double coda at the end, going back to like Ryan's craftsmanship, where he has two different departures during the credit sequence that lets you know I'm using all this canvas. Mm-hmm. I'm not wasting no canvas. Y'all watching credits? Let's get Guy in here, blues legend. You know what I'm saying? And then let's give him a speaking part. Mm-hmm. And then let's go back to Sammy and just like have you as an actor, musician. So you get a musician acting twice, same character. And so I'm watching this piece like, damn, I don't necessarily know if Saul's character is anything other than neutral. He has his perspective. But from a writing point of view, Ryan gave all the sauce to Annie because she was the one that was saving everybody. She knew what they were, then figured out what they really were. And so Ryan gave her the sauce to figure out y'all going to stay safe because of what I'm going to figure out right now. And it might be some stuff that y'all parents and grandparents don't agree with, but we all going to find a way to make it tonight because of what I know and understand. And so part of what I walk away from that is like, okay, damn, that's personal. Sammy, artist, church. But then also the choice that he made ended up like working for him. And that's played out in multiple ways. But the thing I want to just kind of have in this last round is, does anybody have a personal connection with religion and or spirituality that was being tugged on as you watched the film? And we'll start with Sol.
Okay, I'll start with me and then I'll throw it to Star so he don't get lost in the mix. Absolutely. I mean, since we're coming out of the multiple names closet, I will do the same. And my given name is Treasure Faith. Yeah, my mother gave me the name of Treasure Faith as my life instructions. And the process of Treasure dying and becoming Sol was hard for everyone that knew me. It was especially hard for me, but it was tied to an exploration of life within life and having to diverge from the Baptist Christian principles that my mother gave me. But my mother was a hippie. She was a hippie, went through Baha'i faith, tampered with Buddhism. She ended up in the Christian faith. And because I was 3 years old at the time, we were raised Baptist Christian and she was a born again Christian. So in that regard, like that journey of trying to hold true to a faith system that's given to you, but feeling that you're being called to transmit something else. I think when you lay out this dichotomy between Saul Williams' character, Sammy's father, and then Annie, right? The thing about the Christian faith is that the church is the house of God. And so Sammy's father is bound to the pew, bound to the church. Whereas Annie can move because the faith system that she's operating on is about the land. It's about nature. And that's a similar calling that I felt where I had to know I'm not going to be here on Sunday, but I'm tapped in 25/8.
Ashe. Amen.
Star, you want to?
If you know his work before you see the movie, his character has so much weight. And it's like, I look at it as that. Is that he's the preacher, then you can go into the actual band and hear like everything that he said before even the movie, and it will give you either context or even more weight to go back and rewatch the movie and see like his character has so much weight. It's almost like augmented reality in a sense. He doesn't really need to have a fully developed character, but the actor in itself is a character. So
Goes back to the writing.
It levels out with Annie's character. But as soon as I saw him appear on the screen, I'm like,
I know.
How do you make this man an actor?
Go back to Slam. Shaclack clap.
It's like an Easter egg. It's like, if you know, you know. Annie's a preacher in the church. And it's almost like an Easter kind of like ceremony or something. But that's what it's about.
If you don't know about Saul Williams' work, you should definitely tap in.
You know what I'm saying?
And Neptune Frost, his film is of just one long ass incantation.
Yes. Anybody else, from the point of view, did this film tap into something that felt like, ooh, you're over here on the threshold of like my spiritual or religious practice, and that alone is raw enough to me say, y'all, are you talking to me? That's kind of all right, sis. You kind of pulled in. I know he's next, but you already heard his voice. And you're a black woman, so please, take up some space.
So I think I definitely, like, for me, I grew up in church, right? Like, grandma was a pastor, so.
Hi.
So having that plus, like, as I've gotten older, you know, eyes being open to a lot of things, but I think what happened as I'm watching the film, I feel like a lot of the church scenes reminded me a lot of Color Purple, when, you know, it's kind of like the prodigal son or like the prodigal daughter, you know, you're coming back to church and it's like, okay, all my sins have passed away, you know, like, cleanse me, Lord, cleanse me, Lord. But then when you have the aspect of Annie, right, where she's able to tap into spirit and like you said, everywhere is the church for Annie, right, where she doesn't really have a she's tapped into spirit at so many different levels, more than you would be when you have the confinement, I feel like, of the church, right? So I feel like that to me stood out a lot, and then it also felt like freedom too, to a degree, because the way that they broke it out, like I feel like the film has so many layers of religion in it, right? And however you want to define what religion, spirit, God, however that is, and there's so many layers to it, and I really was appreciative of it because I feel like it's not something that's really magnified in our community, whereas too, right, where it's like Christianity is maybe at the highest peak, right, and then you maybe have all these other religions, but in terms of a body, but then everything else is kind of like, kind of shied away from, or not really talked about, or not supposed to be talked about, and it goes against the grain of what is maybe more so natural and then accepted in Western society, should we say. So I felt like the film really did a good job of that, and so yeah, that was my
Thank you. Yeah, I could imagine the tugging.
See what people thought about the very, very last, the second clip after the credits. Yeah. At first I thought like, oh, it's sweet, right? He's singing This Little Light of Mine, but Sammy is singing it in the church. So the idea of coming back to the church as like a sinner, like if you sin and you choose music, you have to decide that you're leaving the church. I don't think that. You don't think that's what?
Did you finish your statement though? Yeah. You did.
So,
she might not be done.
If you're sitting and you choose music, you're choosing to leave the church. In general, in this movie, but the idea that then he was singing and playing his guitar in the church, sort of bringing the secular back, even though obviously it's like a childhood gospel song, I thought was kind of an interesting thing. I don't know if it would, at first I thought it was just sweet, but I was like, oh, that's also kind of like the other direction of being secular and then coming back to this place that even if you've left it, still has like resonance of home to you.
Go ahead, bro.
Came back, wasn't it broken?
Yeah, that's wait, so also that scene happened before.
Yeah.
But also,
There's a double coda.
yeah.
The guitar is broken.
The guitar is cold, and he's wearing the same clothes.
And he's not
that
thinking
he
of
had
his
gone
song.
out with.
Yeah,
But
it's the day after.
you
Or the day before.
Right, but him to agree. And it was
That's why it's the double coda. Like they have two codas back to back.
But to your point though, his dad told him, use your talent for the church.
Yeah.
Don't use your music for
Juke joints.
the devil use it for, which I think is back to your point of like when you put anything above of God or serving God, that's the ultimate fix of you at the end.
I feel like Sammy, church, art, different path, interesting. I've told folks that I think that I've studied a number of religions, and for me, like creativity is my spiritual practice. Like the whole, like the thing that scared me the most in church wasn't hell. It was the fact that the tale of the 10 talents, where he gave somebody like 10 talents, and home was like, well, I'm gonna bury mine and leave him right here and come back for him, and then God took him, and I was like, God take back. Damn. Who wants God to say, nah, bruh, you ain't use that right and pull it back? So I've always been like, man, I ain't trying to get nothing pulled back from God. That feels, I don't know. I don't want to take it personal, but God goes back inside and takes some stuff away from you because you ain't use it. And so the thing that terrified me the most as a child wasn't going to hell. It was like, damn, what if I got something from God I don't use and I lose it? That's a horror movie for me as a kid. And so I'm like, well, when I'm peeping Sammy playing in the church, like little Sunbeam type songs, it's like, that's his church. That's his chosen church. Is his craft that he got from God. So it's like, I don't care what my daddy say. I don't play this way for the devil. I met the devil. I'm going to meet him. but this little light of mine, this is my little light. And you can't tell me God didn't give me this. And so for me not to like sit here on this guitar and do my thing is a sin. I mean, my dad's a preacher. Rashid, bring us home. Come on.
No, that was heavy because I'm an artist and I was a little upset when Simon dropped the guitar.
He was holding it.
Yeah, he was holding it. And if I'm looking at music now, forget it. If I'm looking at who controls it, we don't get no money off the streams. The coach has been completely hijacked. Yeah. In order for me to get hot, I gotta drill on somebody, or I gotta rap about something that I don't want to rap about, or take a very long road to success as an indie artist. After doing this for 15 years, I was like, I'm cool. Because sometimes you can become a prisoner by holding on to shit.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm not saying him, but me metaphorically, I was relieved that I'm in a place in my life where I'm no longer chasing validation, chasing acceptance, trying to get hot. Like, I done put so much money, I got videos, I'm like super talented, and I'm just a New York kid, right? I didn't grow up in a small town. Like, I'm with the majors. It's big league out here, 250,000 to get one song hot, right? So when I seen it, it was like, why he still holding it? Like, fuck, like for real, like life is way bigger than the creativity in one form. Because as a creative, I'm writing a book right now, right? I'm working on the podcast. I haven't written a song in like 2 years, maybe a half a song. But as a creative, I'm gonna find other areas to express my mind. Rapping is just me doing it in rhythmic format, give you a message. But as an MC, as a poet, as a storyteller, I can do art. It bothered me a little bit that he didn't want to let it go because it's okay to pick things back up sometimes. And I guess when I'm hearing what you're saying about God and you can, you don't want God to take anything away from you. But I believe sometimes some things can get too hot. It's like what you said about the industry and looking. Sometimes it's okay to I'm going to put this down for a second and work on strengthening my relationship with the Most High God or finding myself in other avenues so I'm no longer a prisoner to my own joy that honestly isn't really joy if you have to fight through systems to get it to where you need it to be. So this is just me and my own journey in art and music in New York City and having a song that I'm like, yo, I could put this song out, but it's about shaking ass, getting money. But I don't want to put that out no more. I don't want to do that for the culture. I want to do something else. And that was to me like, sometimes it's okay to rely on spirit or to know spirit is in you, to have faith enough to be able to put some stuff down and the Most High is going to create new avenues for you. Then at some point, you know what, let me grab that back and get back to it. If this is a movie about sinners, then I'm going to invoke the spirit of the Most High and nothing comes above that. So if it's my guitar, I'm going to roll that down and get on my knees and pray. And then after that, can I pick it back up or is that gone? And if it's gone, then it was not for me to have in the first place.
That's it wasn't his guitar, it was his connection to God. And so that's what I think he didn't want to let go of. And that was probably, I think his father didn't seem to understand until the very end. He was like, I'm in the church too, like everyone's been saying. I'm in church too.
And working.
Well, yeah. But this is, I can't let go of this connection. And the guitar is maybe like the conduit to that. But totally. Yeah, but like that's not something that that's not felt like you could look up.
Go ahead, babe. I'm sorry, I'm gonna get beat up.
Which is what was coming to mind is this notion of choice. It is very important to have the agency. When you have the agency of saying, I can put this down now and I can channel what I'm, my creativity, my artistry into something else. That's agency. But when you are being told to suppress your creativity, that is a whole different. That can be oppression. And so I think that's the nuance that I think was playing out in real time throughout the movie.
Or when you are being told when to conjure and activate your creativity, which is minstrelsy. Y'all, let's keep this conversation going.
Facts on facts.
Conversation going without us up and you all down. I just want to say I'm so proud of Black Gotham, and I'm so proud of all of you for going through this literature so meticulously. Like, this is literature. This is literature that Ryan Coogler managed to put through a mainstream channel, and it resonated, which shows how spirit moves and when you imbue something, but us taking it up with such integrity and focus and duration. I'm tired, I ain't gonna lie to you. Like, that says a lot, and that's beautiful because we're talking about psychic clarity, we're talking about motivation, we're talking about decolonizing, you know, our currencies, like what we feel is of value. And these are conversations that, like, that world, I don't know what sort of cyclone is coming in every time the door opens, but like, we truly are in some sort of insular space. And I know these conversations aren't happening in the academy. And so the fact that they're happening here to this degree, I'm like, I feel really honored. I feel really, really honored because I really didn't know why you asked me to do it on this topic, but I'm glad.
Because
I saw that movie once and I came late, and I ain't gonna lie to you. So
and you still held it down. So
appreciate you all.
Clearly, you are the brilliant person I know you to be. All right. So just as we pivot off of these microphones, I'm not going to ask Gino and put pressure on him, but it'd be nice if we had a little music after this.
Could you mix it if you're a real DJ? Can you mix it? I'm just saying it because you got the priest.
First of all, this is the priest of Nerdy Thursdays. He's the choir. He's the truth.
God bless you, Gino. Ain't nobody praying for me, Kendrick.
Once again, thank you all. Thank you, BGX team. Love y'all. And now we throw the mic to Gino, because Soul got a request.
It don't gotta come immediately.
Don't disappoint. We want to make Soul happy.
There we go.
People have called BGX a portal, church, cultural hub, sacred ground. Whatever BGX has been to you over the past 15 years, we have built these spaces together. When you become a member, you step further into what we're building, opening the door to BGX walks, advanced views of Nerdy Thursdays episodes, monthly pedagogy meetings, private exhibition views, and gatherings with our partner organizations. You're affirming that Black stories deserve to be told with depth, with care, with integrity. You're helping us build the next 15 years. We'd like to invite you to explore an even deeper Black Gotham experience by becoming a member. Scan the QR code on screen or visit blackgotham.com/membership to join us as we continue our mission and remember together.
Harlem Renaissance era, oh boy, this is no toy, this is real passion. Like it's written in my DNA to be here rapping, this is no accident. Evidence coincides with experience. Come right before your eyes to make an appearance with no clearance necessary. That's cause the essence is legendary. We will never worry, just keep the culture steady. We will never worry, just keep the culture steady. We came to clear your vision from the blurry that gets planted in our minds is scary. How many ways can you fight the powers that be steady? They got machines heavy, our greatest chance is mental. That's why I share perspectives over instrumentals. It's not coincidental. We ready with the main essentials. Rock to the rhythms, then they are so sensual. It's not that simple. The best way to explain is ancestral with blessed roots. Black magic like poof, and that's true.